Hello YouTube vintage stereo collectors, this is Across the Dial, and we have a classic Kenwood KA-2500 here on the bench. My little Sony Trinitron at the back that I watch cartoons and Star Trek on. But I wanted to talk to you about rebuilding amps of the late 60s, early 70s vintage. They're quite a bit different than things that came 10 years later. For example, individual pots and switches, all hand wired like they did in the tube era. And these are beautifully made. Solid steel chassis doesn't flex at all. They have the surface mount capacitors like this. Nice heat sink. It has 4 NPN TO3 case power transistors. But I wanted to talk about some of the intricate repair steps. I'm halfway done this one, okay? This here's the preamp board, all new caps, electrolytic caps, and new transistors. And the transistors in these, this one is just like Sansui's and Pioneers of the time. The little C458 transistors, they get very noisy. And this one was like listening to a waterfall when you listen to it. It was like that. And electrolytic capacitors, it has the L in the caps. Gotta get rid of those, they're terrible. This here is the main filter, the 2200. I upgraded it to a 3300 on a terminal board, a MEIC 3300. Got rid of the old rectifiers, used IN4007s, and new capacitors, the new snubber, whatever they call those. They're there to keep noise out of the system. So rebuilt that. And but what I want to talk about today is bias pots. You notice there's 6 of them on this, and they're actually not all biased. The 2 white ones are actually for bias on the outputs. These 2 outer ones are the center voltage, and this here is the protection circuit. It was all adjustable, and they use these little things. Remember these little potentiometers? Don't try cleaning them, don't try fixing them. These are garbage. It's one of the downfalls of these, but it's what they had at the time. I've tried cleaning them in the past, and either the little rivets cause noise or they're just way out of value. What I do is I buy the sealed ones in bulk, and of course they're meant for direct circuit board mount, and you really don't want that. So here, these 20K sealed ones, these 4 20Ks, I actually solder new leads and extend them so they're above the board so you can get a screwdriver in without shorting anything out. And these here I couldn't get in that style, but these are sealed ones here. They're actually encased in plastic and ceramic. These are really nice ones. And now when you set up the bias and the center voltage, they turn smoothly, the values don't jump around, and they stay set. But that's why it takes a little while to do all that. And I just want to show you the back of this thing. I'm going to try to tip this heavy thing down without dropping it in my lap. The soldering on these is another thing. These boards, they're just completely flowed with solder. This is a different style board here. You actually have solder between the connection points. This one here is a fiberglass board rather than phenolic resin, and there's just solder at most of the connections. This preamp board, especially the first stage with the noisy C458 transistors, taking that apart, every single land, and I'm talking just with a 15-watt iron, lifts up when you desolder it. And what I do is I then have to crazy glue the little copper land back down and then solder the thing together. And boy, I'm telling you, just the work at this end of the board, sorry it's out of focus, was almost an hour and a half for 2 transistors and 4 caps. But it was worth it, quieted right down. And I'm almost done this board, I'm working on it here. You'll notice another thing, the capacitors for the output stage, and it's capacitor coupled outputs, it's hard to get exactly the right value, and they're expensive to fit those clamps. So what I do is I put in an extra terminal board here, and 1000 microfarad and 1000 microfarad, and just reroute the wiring. And this way, they're easy to change. They're in a nice area of the board that's cool. Over here, new power resistors. It comes in here from the 3000 microfarad. There's a 1000 microfarad capacitor. This isn't turned on, by the way. I won't get a shock. Replace these with the metal film, because every time you check them, the old carbon resistors, they're off value, and significantly off value. That's what I find surprising. And I'm talking this style of resistor, these little things. These 100 ohm resistors were about 140 to 160 ohms in range. And there's a 2.2K here, and they don't even look, there isn't any burning or anything. The 2.2K was about 2.9K. Well, I use these metal film ones. It'll bring the voltages to exactly where they should be for the different stages, and a couple new caps down here. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening. I'll do a video later when I've got it up and running.